This is Blacklisted Radio. What's up? Welcome. It's the Valentine's 2016 special edition of the show. It's been a while. I know that most of the monologues I start here, it's been a while. It has been a while. It's been several weeks since I've done the show, but left it in good hands last week. And I want to thank Craig Simpson, producer of our former podcast that I did with Charlie McGrath, the Doomcast, and an integral part of the Blacklisted Radio Network, for filling in for me and steering the mothership. Did a great job. Some of you guys out there chided him a little bit. Some constructive criticism, but that's what I expected. I expected you to be critical, and I love it. So happy to be back. Very interesting day. Of course, it's Valentine's Day, and many of you out there bought your sweetie something. You may have spent some money and spend it in the slave trade. Chocolate. 7 major corporations that use this day to sell. I mean, there's no bigger day for chocolate, and rather than focusing on the bad, there's plenty of good. Valentine's Day, people spend I don't know how much money on helium. It's good for the economy. Hallmark. It's a Hallmark holiday. A lot of you don't like Valentine's Day and think that it's just another Hallmark corporate-generated, media-generated hype. And you'd be right. You are right. That's exactly what it is. But, it is a nice time to show somebody that you care about them, that you love them. But don't do it with Hershey's. Don't do it with Godiva. One of the few ways that you can affect, I think, people talk about slavery and enslavement in so many kind of subjective ways. The tyranny of the government. We talk about that quite a bit, but nothing compares to actually being a real, true slave. Nestle Corporation, shame on you. I actually got 4 chocolate strawberries dipped here locally at the H-E-B grocery store. We didn't get into all the corporate chocolates, and most of those are all just sugar for the most part. They infuse sugar, so it's really super sweet, but the amount of actual cocoa you get in your chocolates, it's a big ripoff. I think that this Hallmark holiday kind of embodies the big ripoff. People buying apartheid diamonds, trying to and feeling obligated to purchase products, jewelry, other shiny objects to seek approval from their significant other. So that's my spiel about Valentine's Day. I know a lot of people. It's pretty surreal. But when you go to Facebook and you see that people are excited about the death of the Supreme Court Justice Anthony Scalia, it's really weird. Especially people in the LGBT community, people on the left that really saw him as a right-wing operative. So much of the Supreme Court is political, and now with his passing, unceremoniously, we have a new media spectacle. Just when everything was kind of getting stale with the Republican and Democratic debates, you have Jeb Bush, of course. Clap. We've all heard the clip. Please clap for me. Hillary Clinton doing speeches to empty rooms, empty conference rooms. The media trying to shape it to make them seem like they are, important. People like Jeb Bush, DOA, dead on arrival, boring. Marco Rubio. Everybody jokes about him being a robot. I don't even know what the backstory to him being a robot is, but he sounds like one. The only thing that's interesting is that I've seen this whirlwind of support for Donald Trump because he's this charismatic man that people, just love the fact that he and Bernie Sanders are not part of the establishment, and I get it. You have Bernie Sanders, say what you will about him. I mean, he doesn't hang out with Henry Kissinger and get personal advice. He doesn't have something like a Sanders Global Initiative where he took money from despot dictatorships and went on a whirlwind $23 million speaking tour. So when he comes to, is he part of the establishment? Well, we can get there. We'll talk about him. But Anthony Scalia, I guess to some, he would be, most of the people that read his work and legal scholars would give him credit for this idea that you have to interpret the Constitution, not verbatim or literally, but as the founders themselves envisioned it. And that's really important, because when you look at things like the Second Amendment, the right for the militia to bear arms, I paraphrase, but to have a well-regulated militia. Of course, when people hear that term now today, a regulated militia, they think about what's happening in Oregon with the just now finished standoff that happened. I mean, that's what people think of when they think of militia. That's what they've seen on TV, and that is perception is reality for most of those people. So if you try to read the Constitution, obviously, in a literal 21st century meaning, it's something much different. So, and I don't even know how much he subscribed to that. The politics, of course, of this is that you have 9 Supreme Court justices. 5 were right-leaning, a popular, consensus. 5 right-leaning and 4 left-leaning. And now for the showdown to see who becomes the replacement. And so you have all of the wonks and politicos making bets on who will be the next Supreme Court justice. It's not unprecedented, but not too many times in history have we had a president that was able to appoint 3 Supreme Court justices. So you have a Republican Senate right now. They could stall this appointment effectively to be in the hands of the 2016 president-elect. And who may that be? Would you want Hillary Clinton to name that Supreme Court justice? Would you want Bernie Sanders to name that Supreme Court justice? Would you want Donald Trump, even more interestingly, to name that Supreme Court justice? And beyond that, how relevant is it to politics today? Of course, if you are a fan of the Second Amendment like I am, you've probably seen the very negative press, almost red alert press, about how this will affect gun ownership in the United States of America. All of that's to be seen. As far as Anthony Scalia being a friend of the Second Amendment, I've seen stories going both ways, and some of his votes are pretty wish-washy. And I mean, I guess I can kind of respect that. He didn't just toe a party line or do what was popular at the time. So give him credit for that. But beyond that, pretty weird circumstances surrounding his death. Of course, if you haven't found out yet, he died in Marfa, Texas, which is out in the middle of nowhere. Nowhere. I went to Marfa when I was 11 years old, and looked at the Marfa lights. If you're not familiar, there is this anomaly, this strange happening that happens most nights in Marfa, where you can see these orbs of light that float around and actually connect with one another and form into one another, that for well over 130 years plus documented, people have been seeing these lights. Witnessed them myself. I don't know. I have no idea. I would venture to say probably something with gases and the electromagnetic force that may be coming from the area. because it was very Aurora Borealis-esque. But pretty interesting place. It's actually kind of now a hipster destination. But he was at the Cibolo Creek. I think I'm saying that correctly. Cibolo, I think, is actually the proper way to pronounce. But a very high-end resort where he partied. And that kind of shocked me that he would actually go to a party in Marfa, Texas. And what an interesting place to die. But he went back to his cabin, according to reports, and this morning he didn't show up for breakfast, and now we have a constitutional crisis. The media is loving this, by the way. So kind of weird. Then you have the fact that the coroner didn't even look at the body. The family's has no interest in an autopsy, so apparently that won't be performed. There's quote unquote, according to sources, no suspected foul play. Okay, there you go. I mean, somebody dies with his best friend. You probably don't, think that these people would kill him. I guess that's good that you have that kind of faith. But the coroner not being there. I mean, this guy could, pretty much be anywhere. She just said, yeah, he's dead. Don't need to look at the body. Not interested in it. So when it comes back to cui bono, who benefits from it all, I guess it would be the media in this case, because it gives them ample meat for coverage. They are like wild tigers. So read the NRA's report on Scalia's importance to the Supreme Court and what this could mean for gun owners in this country. And, there's a absolute push to restrict legal firearm ownership in this country. Just ask Ted Nugent. I say that in jest, but he's taken some heat. Obviously, he has been a poster boy for the Second Amendment, rightfully or wrongfully, because he's just as famous. Primarily famous, or has been, but has notoriety. I guess he's pretty famous, and more so maybe to the left because of his very boisterous and outspoken viewpoints on the Second Amendment. Well, anyway, he got, illuminated to some of the people in this country that really do have an agenda to take guns away. And there's this meme that I think a lot of you have probably already seen, where it has, who's really behind gun control. And you have Feinstein with an Israeli flag. You have Schumer with an Israeli flag. You have Michael Bloomberg with his Israeli flag. You have Rahm Emanuel with his Israeli flag. I mean, on and on. There's 15 people in the picture. And, of course, the takeaway is that it's the Jews that are trying to take away guns in this country. So one of the ways they're doing that is Operation Choke Point. And I just want to briefly mention that there's actually several bills moving forward to repeal Operation Checkpoint, something that I have had to deal with. Some of you may have as well. And that is this operation that was to push banks to not do business with companies that were considered high risk. And the inclusion of gun dealers, even licensed gun dealers and part manufacturers, gun businesses, firearm industries being put into this high risk category, along with people selling vaporizer pens, anything else that is somewhat gray market at the moment. Vape pens. Another thing that they really, really hate are hookahs, which kind of shocks me that there's such a coalition against the hookahs. Vaporizing pens, of course, a big focus because people are basically just going outside of the system and doing whatever it is that they want to do when it comes to imbibing nicotine, and the government's kind of behind the curve. So Operation Checkpoint or choke point was a way for the federal government to push banks to do their dirty business, their bidding. And I know it sounds funny considering, but I've said it 100 times. I think I even told a friend this week that it's not the bank's job to figure out where you got whatever it is that you're putting in there. However you made your money, it shouldn't be the bank's concern. Might be the government's concern if you're doing something illegal. Maybe the DEA's concern because you're selling drugs. It may be a lot of people's concerns, but it shouldn't be the bank's concern. It's not. They shouldn't worry about where I get my money. They should worry about protecting my money. That is their role and function in society, as I see it. What all of this will mean for the future of firearm ownership in the United States of America in the future, we will see. Who will be the next Supreme Court justice? Will it be Obama's decision? I can't see anybody being that well vetted and that the Obama administration would put forward that would get Senate approval. So we'll see. We will see, and the media will be talking about it all day long as to what happens with Mr. Scalia's departure. I have predictions. I guess my prediction would be that we either get Bernie Sanders, who'd be great, or Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, he's already argued in front of the Supreme Court. I don't know how many times. 9 times? 9 times. It's really impressive. I don't think that the Obama administration, but I think that if Ted Cruz goes south, and that's a real possibility. Although I think I might take that back because I think that he has put so much out there, his political philosophy, that he would never be seen as neutral. But I think he would be a good Supreme Court justice. Anyway, all of this taking away from the reality, the real spectacle that I at least there's a little coverage of, and that is World War III, possibly on the precipice, although that's really just a mile marker for where we're at on the road to World War III. Okay, we're now on the interstate, the tollway, the NAFTA highway to war in Syria. We have Turkey now allowing the Saudi Arabians, at least according to Press TV, that's Iranian press, and a few other news outlets, Al Jazeera, the now defunct Al Jazeera, and others. And I have no reason to not believe, after the whirlwind of Saudi rhetoric and preparations being made for a coalition force, and that's what they've been calling for, a coalition of Middle Eastern countries, which is code word for U.S. allies to take on not only the Syrian government at this point, but also to fight to protect the CIA-backed rebels, whoever they may be, and of course Russia itself. Now, we're in a new Cold War. Why do I say that? Because Dmitry Medvedev, former president, reappointed now the deputy minister. He's Putin's buddy. We'll just put it there. He has said we are in a new Cold War. So if he says it, that's where we're at. No doubt about that. All right, guys, quick break. You can be part of the show, 800-313-9443 and at blacklistedradio.com. And I say, hey, live it like we're renegades. Live it like we're renegades. And welcome back. It's Blacklisted Radio. 800-313-9443. You can be part of the show that way. Telephonically, you can also tweet at me. BLN Radio is the handle, and you can go to blacklistedраdio.com to find everything you need. To the phones we go. We're going to talk first with Brent in Dallas. Brent, welcome to Blacklisted Radio.
Well, thank you, Doug. When I was talking to Ken, I want to thank Ken for putting me on. He referred to you as Dr. Doug. And so I'm going to just refer to myself as Dr. Muska de Antarctica. I'm just in general practitioner.
Yeah, there you go. That's all. You can be in general practitioner. It's okay.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if you're interested or not, but last night I saw the going away party for Scalia was on the news, and so I looked into El 14 del Cibolo, which in Spanish is the Fort of Cibolo, and they have their website, Cibolo Creek Ranch. Cibolo Creek Ranch. Anybody can look it up on the internet. It's all over. From what I understand, it's like from $500 to $900 a night if you're interested. All you have to do is get down to San Angelo and take 67 South, and you'll find the signs on the off-road. But they have an interesting little clip here about their location. I was wondering if you'd like to hear it.
About Marfa or
Cibolo El 14 del Cibolo, the Fort of Cibolo.
You know what, Brent? Just send me that clip because I don't think it's going to really convey over the phone line here all that well. But send it to me and I'll play it. What's that?
Well, no, it's a website. You have to go to their resort website.
Oh yeah. I've seen the resort. It's pretty outlandish. I mean, it's a huge West Texas ranch. It's ideal for political figures, people that are going to have huge, parties, and that would, cater to a lot of Texas oil money types. And there's plenty of people that have stayed there.
Anything you want.
What's that?
They say that anything you want, it'll be discreet.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
We need to do an investigation, Brent, and see if this is true. You and I, you get the money together, and I'll go with you. You're not that far away.
Okay. And one of the bedrooms is kind of interesting. It has the skull head, over the mantle.
Ooh, that's
big
like a
horns
death's
on
head?
it. Then and then on the chest that's at the end of the bed, it has a boar, pig, and then over the head of the bed is a number of harnesses for horses. Just wide collections of harnesses that you could put over the neck of a horse, to pull and do work.
So you think this is a creepy, like, elite sex, like, escapade place, like maybe like a... I
don't know. I'm not going to make any accusations,
Right. Okay. Well, I'm going to look into it. I hadn't spent a lot of time on it. I was familiar. I've heard of it, but I hadn't checked into the rooms. I haven't seen their ambiances yet, but I'll look at this. $535 a night. Won't be staying there anytime soon.
That's on the low end. Just one other thing. The entire landscape was a fort. Mm-hmm. It was formed by an ancient supervolcano, and it occurred 32 million years ago. Just for a little historical insight there. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, maybe a good place to do a blood sacrifice ritual. I think that's where Brent was going. And you know what? It would not surprise me in the least. Nothing would. But, interesting place to die. Out in the middle of nowhere. It's pretty luxurious. And, if you look into the owner, you look into the ranch, its history, it's a pretty lengthy history. All right, let's go to Idaho and talk to Jeff. Jeff, welcome to Blacklisted Radio.
Hey, that's called earthquake lighting. That supervolcano underneath there, it makes spherical, like, you know how you have a magnifying lens, you focus?
I've seen spherical lightning. Yeah, I mean, it's similar. It looks like that, but...
Yeah, when you look at all the downhole stuff in Texas, all the helium is from radioactivity. You know, all the helium that they got during World War II that was real super important,
right,
you know, is basically from the radioactivity right underneath that area. So that's what's called earthquake lighting. You know, it's involved with volcanism and huge current moving, either from radioactivity or like solar discharges. But yeah, they'll jump around like ball lightning and stuff. But
so that's the popular consensus as to what MARFA is, or have you looked into it yourself? Yeah.
No, I was just telling from what you explained. Right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Kind of what the...
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of... It's weird. There's lots of videos I'm sure you can find on MARFA lights, and you should take a look for yourself.
Right, well, what I'm saying is, if it's a supervolcano, then it basically has a caldera that is causing a curved, like a concave surface. And that's what is, like, it's going through, and then it's focusing through that curve upward at a distance. You see what I'm saying? Like
sure.
It's like a positive lens for, like, burning ants.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You know, I mean, that's a good, I mean, I have to look into it, but that's as good a reason as any, or, you know, I think that everybody, that's the thing about it. There's so many different opinions and, you know, unsolved mysteries. I remember when I was a kid, one of the really interesting ones to me, and thanks for the call, appreciate it, Jeff, was the MARFA lights, and going there and seeing them for myself. And, you know, the thing that was so weird about it is that they would come together, and there would be 3 or 4 of them. They would come together, float as one, like, glowing ball, and then slowly break up, and then float away, and then come back. I highly encourage you to check it out, Jeff, and maybe after you look at it, maybe give me a follow-up, and, you know, let me know what you think about it. But... you know, it's one of those mysteries, and it's kind of. I actually would be kind of sad. I think we would be remiss if it was solved. The mystique of it, the nostalgia, not knowing is probably better, I think. But that when it comes to the MARFA lights, not when it comes to politics or geopolitical issues of the day. Those I like 100% transparency with. So we've talked about what is taking place and kind of the timeline that I think that a lot of people would like to see in Syria. Of course, you know, just like every one of these other slam dunk U.S. military occupations, you know, Iraq will take a few thousand soldiers, a couple days, we'll have a new government, everything will be fine. Dick Cheney telling us that they would lay rose petals for the U.S. soldiers, maybe for a minute, and maybe until they caught on to what your true intentions were, Mr. Cheney and the Genie Oil Company, which I have attended and spent time at the MARFA Lodge there, Cibolo Creek. Interestingly enough, coincidence? I think not. All right. Interesting story that I saw that kind of pertains to this. Russia is now sending their brand new cruise missile ship to Syria. This is a little posturing. It's a pretty nice ship. I was checking it out at spacewar.com. That is taking shape. You have Turkey now absolutely identified as working and doing cross-border. I mean, at first it was retaliatory. Yes, we're only going to defend ourselves. And that's just, I mean, that is part of the line that you always hear from the military right before any attack. I remember when the NSA and these cybersecurity agencies under the Department of Homeland Security said we would never attack other networks. We're not making offensive weapons. We would never, ever, ever do that. And then, of course, then they did. And then, well, that's the way it worked, and it just continued on from there. The feds are now pouring money into a project to create a database that tracks suspicious internet memes. And I was thinking about poor, somewhat ostracized Ted Nugent when I saw this in his meme. You know, what is that a dangerous meme to have the Jews are after the guns, or anything else, no matter how ridiculous you may or may not think that meme is. When does comedy and or parody become dangerous? And just having this kind of database, or people in government that view free speech as terrorist propaganda, is very telling. I mean, it's just like what you're seeing in France. Charlie Hebdo, and then the response to free speech and how they're going to fight for free speech is to take it away and to change the Constitution and amend it so that the central government has extrajudicial security powers whenever they like. So we're seeing that transformation, and that's why I get back to Scalia and the Supreme Court, and I just think about how far beyond the legal structure globalization has taken it, and whether or not they're even relevant moving forward into the next 20 or 30 years. You can say that it's unethical to create GMO gene-altered children, but you can do it in the UK. There's a lot of places where it's absolutely okay to do that. So, Obama has signed a new executive order, and I saw a little clip of this on Fox News, I know, but it's pretty interesting. If you look at the amount of executive orders that have pretty much gone under the radar over the last 6 months, this is just one of several that is actually going to empower the EPA, the Bureau of Land Management, other federal agencies to take land from people. The government can do this under the auspices of a variety of things, but the most friendly and, I guess, politically easy way to push this forward is through environmentalism, which, I am an environmentalist. I think that we should have harmony and have a prosperous and, all of that good stuff. I mean, we should have a good, prosperous relationship. I hate saying that, though, because I do believe it, but when I say it, I just want to punch myself in the face. I hope we have a nice, wonderful, clean world, because that's the exact pitch you hear from people that are trying to use faux science to regulate and to tax people to death, to put people back in a place where you have no rights inherently to property. And it's a very fundamental issue here in this country. I mean, that is the founding principle, that we have property ourselves, our property, and thus we have inherent rights to that. Whereas, this, and I guess there's, fairly, there's always been a balance. You can look at the founder's interpretation or the Supreme Court of today's interpretation of some of those founding documents, the Bill of Rights primarily, and you will see that they have a very, very skewed vision of what is more important. And I've said it before, your interest, your home, or a huge highway, tollway that is going to bring, allegedly, okay, this is the pitch anyway, bring prosperity, bring jobs, bring more benefit to more people. If you think about it like a Bernie Sanders socialist perspective, the good for more, the good for the majority, not the minority, and that's where most of that ideology comes from, is that that the collective deserves more than the individual, and it's easy to go after the quote unquote fat cats. It's easy to target individuals that you believe have an unfair amount of wealth in their own hands. The grand, I guess, debate would only be whether or not socialism or capitalism is the cause. In the argument, I guess, for free markets would be that only through government enriching, empowering, and basically giving immunity to super powerful corporations have those kingmakers derived. You would not have that if you had a more free and equitable market. I don't know about that entirely, because you've had people, families, dynasties, those people that have controlled that. So many of the people that I think are in power wrongfully have been able to game the system. So people on the left are trying to create a system that's ungameable, and where people can only elevate themselves to a certain level above others, where others can only fail to a certain level below others. It sounds nice. There's plenty of socialist countries that have done a pretty good job of regulating the banks. Iceland, namely one, with small populations. There's plenty of socialist countries you can go to today if you really like those. You really want to embrace that kind of philosophy. I mean, there's plenty of places where you can go, immigrate, and get free health care. I don't know how great it'll be. I can tell you how expensive it will be in this country. So, one of the things that's just amazing to me is that we have this political zeitgeist that's changing. Now, I'm not a big fan of any of the the characters from Central Casting that are being put out there for the American people to pick between. Quite honestly, I have no favorite, and I'll finish up those thoughts in just a moment. It is something that's pretty revolutionary and gives me a lot of hope. So stay tuned for that final segment. On the other side, it's Blacklisted Radio. All right, welcome back. It only gets odder. I'm just reading this thanks to Craig there, good friend of the show. Cibolo Creek Ranch owner recalls Scalia's last hours in Texas. And I'm reading through this, and there's just one thing that sticks out to me that I'm sure is just me. He says, quote, "We discovered the judge in bed, a pillow over his head. His bedclothes were unwrinkled. Poindexter, the owner, said. He was lying very restfully. It looked like he had not quite awakened from a nap." He said of Scalia, 79, who did not have a pulse, and his body was cold. After consulting with the doctor at the hospital in Alpine, Poindexter concluded resuscitation would have been futile. He then contacted federal authorities, at first encountering a series of answering services because he was calling on the weekend. Pillow over his head. What the hell is that about? That's normal. That's how you sleep, with the unwrinkled bedclothes. You're in bed. Why aren't your clothes wrinkled? I don't know. Odd things to say. Makes me wonder. Anyway, back to the political cesspool that we have on the very removed and disconnected island there called the Hill. We have some interesting things happening, of course, in Iowa, in New Hampshire. Regardless of what Microsoft said, whether the vote was rigged against Donald Trump, his accusation wouldn't shock me much considering all of the shenanigans. And, I mean, Bev Harris's Hacking Democracy HBO documentary is pretty explosive. And to think that these machines being made now, almost 10 years ago, some of them older than that, are still being used today. Yeah, the integrity of the election is definitely in question in my mind, big time. But the people that usually spend the most money win 99.9% of the time. You may have seen that infographic. It's been floating around. Might be one of those dangerous memes the government's after. Nonetheless, this is something that has changed with Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, both for the Republican and Democratic Party, spending the least amount of money on media. When you get money from your backers, your supporters, your constituents, your bribers, you use that to buy media. That's why the media is excited about Scalia dying, and they're so excited about having something to breathe new light into this debate. Because as I said earlier, it's not about the presidential election. It's about the Constitution. They're freaking out about it. But that is going to directly affect it. And I think that is why they are dangerous outsiders. Not that I would want either of them to be president of the United States, nor that I think it would probably be that much better if it was somebody else in the Republican or Democratic Party. As for me, I'll probably do what I always do, and that's just vote Libertarian when I don't know who the person is. It's a safe way to go. Okay, guys, quick break. Oh, you know what? That's the end of the show. Thank you for being part of it. Thank you to Craig Simpsons for hosting last weekend. Thank you to Ken there working the ones and twos in the studio. And, of course, all of you for listening. I'll be back next week for another live edition of Blacklisted Radio. Until then, take care.